June 1st, 1962. 3:47 p.m. Marilyn Monroe sat in the waiting area outside Daryl Zanuck's office at 20th Century Fox. Her hands trembled slightly as she smoothed down her dress. She'd been summoned. No explanation. Just a curt message from his secretary. "Mr. Zanuck needs to see you immediately." She knew what this was about. Something's got to give was over budget, behind schedule. And the studio blamed her. Always her. The door opened. Zanuck's secretary, a thin woman with tight lips, gestured. "He'll see you now." Marilyn stood, walked into the office. The door closed behind her with a heavy click. Zanuck sat behind his massive desk, cigar smoke curling around him like a serpent. He didn't look up when she entered. "Sit down, Marilyn." She sat, waited. The silence stretched. Finally, he looked at her. His eyes were cold, dead. "Do you know how much money you've cost this studio?" "Mr. Zanuck, I've been sick." "The doctor can verify." "I don't care about your doctor. I don't care about your excuses. I care about profit." "And you're not profitable anymore." Marilyn's throat tightened. "What are you saying?" He leaned forward. "I'm saying your contract is terminated. Effective immediately. You're fired." The words hit her like a physical blow. "You can't do that." "I have a contract. 3 more films. Read the fine print, sweetheart. Chronic tardiness. Failure to fulfill professional obligations. We have grounds, and we're exercising them. But this is my career. This is my life. Your career is over." He picked up a folder. "And let me tell you why. Because you're trouble, Marilyn. You've always been trouble. The pills, the affairs, the attitude. We tolerated it when you were making us money, but now, you're a liability." Tears stung her eyes. "I've given everything to this studio, everything. And we've given you fame, fortune, everything you have, you owe to us. And now we're collecting." What Marilyn didn't know was that hidden in her purse, beneath her compact and lipstick, a small recording device was capturing every word. She'd placed it there that morning on the advice of her lawyer. "If they're going to fire you," he'd said, "at least get evidence of how they do it." And evidence was exactly what she was getting. But wait a minute. Because what Zanuck said next would be far worse than just firing her. Zanuck stubbed out his cigar. "Let me be clear about something, Marilyn. This isn't just about you being fired. This is about making sure you never work in this town again." "What?" "I'm calling every studio head, every producer, every director, and I'm telling them the same thing. Marilyn Monroe is unreliable, unstable, unemployable. By this time tomorrow, you'll be blacklisted from Hollywood." Marilyn's voice shook. "You can't do that." That's illegal," he laughed. A harsh, cruel sound. "Illegal? Sweetheart, I own this town. I own the unions. I own the press. I own you. And if I say you're finished, you're finished." "Why? Why are you doing this?" His expression darkened. "Because you've been talking. Asking questions. Making noise about things that don't concern you. I don't know what you mean. Don't play stupid. We know about your meetings with the press. Your conversations with that actress, what's her name? Dorothy Dandridge's friend. The one who's been gathering evidence." Marilyn's blood ran cold. We know everything, Marilyn. We know you're trying to expose the studio system, the working conditions, the contracts, the way we do business. And we're not going to let that happen. So this is about silencing me. This is about protecting our interests. And if that means ending your career, so be it." He pulled out another document. "But there's an alternative." "What alternative?" "Sign this. It's a non-disclosure agreement. You agree to never speak publicly about your time at this studio. Never give interviews about working conditions. Never testify if there's an investigation. In exchange, we'll give you a severance package, $1 million, and if I don't sign, then we destroy you. Not just professionally, personally. We'll release information about your private life, your affairs, your pill usage, your mental health issues. We'll paint you as a tragic figure who lost her mind, and no one will believe anything you say ever again." Marilyn stared at the document, her hands clenched in her lap. The recording device in her purse captured every word. Every threat, every admission. "How long do I have to decide?" 24 hours. "Tomorrow at this time, you either sign that agreement or face the consequences. And if I sign, what guarantee do I have that you won't destroy me anyway?" Zanuck smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "You don't, but at least you'll have $1 million to cushion the fall." He stood. The meeting was over. My secretary will see you out. Marilyn stood on shaky legs, walked to the door, paused. Mr. Zanuck, can I ask you something? What? Do you even remember that I'm a person? That I have feelings? That I'm more than just a product you can use and throw away? He looked at her like she'd asked if the sky was purple. No, Marilyn, I don't. Because in this business, you're not a person. You're an asset. And when assets stop performing, we liquidate them. She left his office, walked past the secretary, through the studio lot, to her car. She sat in the driver's seat, hands gripping the steering wheel, and finally let herself cry. But through the tears, through the pain, one thought burned bright. She had the recording. Every threat, every admission, every moment of his cruelty captured on tape, and she was going to use it. The real question was how. Because what happened next would determine not just her future, but the future of every actor in Hollywood. Marilyn drove straight to her lawyer's office. Martin Goldstein had been representing her for 5 years. He was smart, ethical, and most importantly, he wasn't afraid of the studios. She burst into his office. Martin, I got it. I got everything. He closed the door behind her. Tell me. She pulled the recording device from her purse, set it on his desk, pressed play. For the next 15 minutes, they listened to Zanuck's voice. The threats, the blacklisting, the non-disclosure agreement, the admission that they were trying to silence her. When it ended, Martin sat back in his chair. My God, this is exactly what we needed. What do I do with it? We go public immediately. This proves everything you've been saying about studio practices. This proves they're trying to silence actors who speak out. But he'll destroy me. You heard him. He'll release everything about my private life. He'll try. But Marilyn, with this recording, he's the one who'll be destroyed. This is evidence of extortion, blackmail, conspiracy to harm your career. This isn't just a civil matter. This is criminal. Marilyn paced the office. But Martin, he said he owns everyone. The unions, the press, the other studios. What if no one cares? What if they all protect him? Then we find someone who will care. Someone outside the Hollywood system. Someone with nothing to lose and everything to gain from exposing this. Who? Martin thought for a moment. There's a reporter. Edward R. Murrow. He's been covering corruption for years. He's not afraid of powerful men. And he's looking for his next big story. You think he'd be interested? In a recording of one of Hollywood's most powerful studio heads threatening and extorting its biggest star? Absolutely. Marilyn stopped pacing. Okay, set up a meeting. But Martin, we need to be careful. If Zanuck finds out I'm talking to the press before I sign that agreement, I know. We'll be discreet. I'll reach out through back channels. Set up a meeting somewhere private. When? Tonight. The sooner we move, the less time they have to retaliate. That evening, Marilyn met Edward R. Murrow in a small apartment in Santa Monica. The place belonged to a friend of Martin's. No connection to Hollywood. No paper trail. Murrow was in his 50s with kind eyes and a voice that commanded respect. He'd made his career exposing corruption and challenging power. He was exactly who she needed. Miss Monroe, he said, shaking her hand, thank you for trusting me with this. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I know this is unusual. The best stories usually are. He sat down. Your lawyer told me you have a recording. May I hear it? She nodded. Martin set up the player. Pressed play. Murrow listened intently. His expression grew darker with each passing minute. When it ended, he was silent for a long moment. Miss Monroe, do you understand what you have here? Evidence of extortion? More than that. This is evidence of a systemic problem. This isn't just one studio head threatening one actress. This is a window into how the entire studio system operates. The control, the coercion, the abuse of power. He leaned forward. If we release this recording, it won't just affect Zanuck. It'll affect every studio in Hollywood. It'll force a reckoning. A complete restructuring of how this industry treats its talent. That's what I want, Marilyn said quietly. I don't want anyone else to go through what I've been through. What so many of us have been through. Then we need to do this right. We need to verify the recording's authenticity, get statements from other actors about similar experiences, build a comprehensive story that can't be dismissed or ignored. How long will that take? A week, maybe 2. But Miss Monroe, you need to know something. Once we release this, your life will never be the same. You'll be a target, not just from Zanuck, but from everyone who benefits from the current system. They'll come after you with everything they have. I know, but if I don't do this, if I just take their money and stay silent, I'll never be able to look at myself in the mirror again. Murrow smiled. Then we have a deal. I'll start reaching out to my sources, building the story, and in 2 weeks we'll release it on my show. See It Now, primetime. Millions of viewers. They shook hands, and Marilyn felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. But you won't believe what happened the next day, because Zanuck wasn't the only one who'd been watching her. The next morning, Marilyn woke to pounding on her door. She looked through the peephole. 2 men in suits, FBI badges. Her heart sank. She opened the door. Miss Monroe, we need to speak with you about a matter of national security. National security? I'm an actress. What could I possibly— may we come in? She stepped aside. They entered, looked around her house like they were cataloging everything. The first agent, tall with gray hair, pulled out a folder. Miss Monroe, we understand you recently had a meeting with Daryl Zanuck. How do you know about that? We know a lot of things, including the fact that you recorded that conversation without Mr. Zanuck's knowledge or consent. Marilyn's stomach dropped. I don't know what you're talking about. Miss Monroe, please. We're not here to arrest you. We're here to warn you. Warn me about what? The second agent, younger and darker-haired, spoke. About the people you're dealing with. Daryl Zanuck isn't just a studio head. He's connected to some very powerful individuals. Political figures, business leaders, people with reach that extends far beyond Hollywood. So you're saying I should just let him blackmail me? Let him destroy my career? We're saying you should be very careful about how you proceed. Because the recording you have? It doesn't just incriminate Zanuck. It implicates a network, and networks protect themselves. The first agent leaned forward. Miss Monroe, have you shared that recording with anyone? She thought about lying. But what was the point? My lawyer, and a journalist, Edward R. Murrow. How did you— We've been watching him too. He's been investigating certain connections between Hollywood and Washington. Connections that some people would prefer stay hidden. Why are you telling me this? Because we want you to know what you're getting into. If Murrow releases that recording, it won't just be Zanuck who comes after you. It'll be senators, judges, people who can make you disappear and no one will ask questions. Marilyn stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. So you want me to stay silent? Just like Zanuck does. Just like everyone does. We want you to survive. And what if surviving means letting them get away with it? What if surviving means abandoning every other actor who's being exploited right now? The agents exchanged glances. Miss Monroe, the first agent said quietly, we're not the enemy here. We're trying to help you navigate a very dangerous situation. Then help me expose it. Help me bring these people to justice. It's not that simple. It never is. She walked to the door, opened it. Thank you for the warning. But I'm going ahead with this. With or without your help. The agent stood, walked to the door. The first one paused. Miss Monroe, if you insist on doing this, at least let us provide protection. There are people in our agency who want to see this corruption exposed. We can keep you safe while Murrow builds his story. Why would you do that? Because some of us still believe in justice. Even when it's complicated. Marilyn studied his face, looking for the lie, the angle. But all she saw was sincerity. Okay, but I have conditions. The recording stays with my lawyer. I approve every aspect of the story before it airs. And if I sense even a hint of betrayal, I walk. Agreed. Over the next week, Edward R. Murrow worked day and night. He interviewed former studio employees, actors who'd been blacklisted, directors who'd witnessed abuse. He built a comprehensive picture of how the studio system operated, and at the center of it all was Marilyn's recording. Zanuck's voice. His threats. His admissions. Murrow scheduled the broadcast for June 15th. See It Now, the hidden face of Hollywood. He promoted it heavily, promised revelations that would shock the nation. The studio got wind of it. Zanuck called an emergency meeting with the other studio heads. They discussed strategies, legal action, discrediting Marilyn, destroying Murrow's career. But they underestimated one thing. They underestimated how many people were tired of the system. How many actors, writers, directors were ready for change. 3 days before the broadcast, Marilyn received a call. A woman's voice, older, familiar. Marilyn, This is Bette Davis." Marilyn was stunned. Bette Davis, the legend, the icon. They'd never been particularly close. "Miss Davis, I'm surprised to hear from you. I'm calling because I heard about your recording, about what you're planning to do." "How did you—" "Sweetheart, I've been in this business for 30 years. I hear everything." She paused. "And I want you to know that I'm with you. If you're going on television to expose these bastards, I'll stand beside you." You will?" "I've been blacklisted, threatened, exploited, just like you. Just like thousands of others. And I'm tired of staying silent. So yes, I'll testify. I'll share my experiences, and I'll dare them to blacklist both of us." Over the next 2 days, more calls came. James Stewart, Katharine Hepburn, Montgomery Clift, even Marlon Brando, all of them offering to stand with her. All of them ready to share their stories. By the time the broadcast date arrived, Murrow had 20 major Hollywood figures ready to appear on camera. The story had grown beyond Marilyn's recording. It had become a movement. June 15, 1962. 8 p.m. Millions of Americans tuned in to CBS. Edward R. Murrow's serious face filled the screen. "Good evening. Tonight we're going to show you something that the Hollywood studios don't want you to see. We're going to play you a recording that exposes the systematic exploitation, coercion, and abuse that has defined the entertainment industry for decades." He paused, let the weight of his words sink in. This recording features Daryl Zanuck, head of 20th Century Fox, threatening actress Marilyn Monroe. But this isn't just about one studio head and one actress. This is about a system. And tonight we're going to dismantle it. The recording played. Zanuck's voice. Every threat, every admission, every moment of callous cruelty, America heard it all. And then the interviews began. Bette Davis talking about being told she was too old at 40. James Stewart describing how studios controlled every aspect of actors' lives. Katharine Hepburn revealing the contractual clauses that essentially made actors property of the studios. And finally, Marilyn herself. No glamour. No Marilyn Monroe persona. Just Norma Jean telling the truth. "I was told I was nothing without them. That they made me. That I owed them everything. And for years I believed it. But I was wrong. They didn't make me. I made myself. With my talent, my work, my sacrifice. And they don't own me. They never did." The broadcast lasted 2 hours. By the time it ended, the phone lines at CBS were jammed. Newspapers were rewriting their front pages. Politicians were calling for investigations. And in his office at 20th Century Fox, Daryl Zanuck was watching his empire crumble. The next morning, he called a press conference. Denied everything. Called the recording a fake. Called Marilyn a liar, but no one believed him. The evidence was too overwhelming. The testimonies too consistent. The pattern too clear. Within a week, he was forced to resign. The board of directors wanted to save the studio, and that meant throwing Zanuck to the wolves, but it didn't stop there. The other studio heads, realizing they were next, started making changes. New contracts, better working conditions, protections for actors. The Screen Actors Guild negotiated new industry-wide standards. Minimum rest periods, health insurance, fair compensation, and at the center of it all was Marilyn's recording, the evidence that started everything, but there was still one more twist. Because 2 weeks after the broadcast, Marilyn received a package. The package arrived at her door with no return address. Inside was a reel-to-reel tape and a note written in elegant cursive. "Dear Miss Monroe, you don't know me, but I know you. I've been watching your fight with great interest. The recording you released has inspired me to come forward with my own evidence. What you exposed was just the beginning. There's so much more. This tape contains conversations between studio heads and government officials. Deals that were made. Secrets that were buried. People who were silenced. I'm giving this to you because I believe you're the only one brave enough to use it. But be careful. What's on this tape is far more dangerous than what you've already revealed. A friend." Marilyn's hands trembled as she looked at the tape. Should she listen? Should she involve Martin and Murrow again? Or should she destroy it and walk away while she still could? She thought about all the actors who'd stood with her. All the people who had found courage because of her example. All the change that had already happened. But she also thought about the threats. The FBI agents' warnings. The network of power that still existed beneath the surface. She made her decision. She called Martin. "I need you to come over now and bring a tape player." An hour later, they listened together. and what they heard made the Zanuck recording seem tame by comparison. Conversations about using studios to launder money for political campaigns. Discussions about which actors were politically unreliable and needed to be blacklisted. Admissions of using starlets as leverage in business deals. References to accidents that had been arranged for problematic talent. When the tape ended, Martin's face was ashen. Marilyn, this goes beyond Hollywood. This is about organized crime, political corruption, possibly even murder. What do? We can't go to the press with this. Not yet. This needs to go to law enforcement. Real law enforcement. People who aren't compromised. How do we know who's compromised? We don't, but we have to try. They contacted the FBI agent who'd warned Marilyn, the one who'd offered protection. He listened to the tape, made some calls, brought in people he trusted. Within days, a task force was formed. Federal investigators, independent prosecutors, people from outside California who had no ties to Hollywood or its political connections. The investigation took months. Subpoenas, warrants, wiretaps. They followed the money, tracked the connections, built cases, and slowly, systematically, they dismantled the network. Studio executives were indicted. Politicians resigned. Business leaders were prosecuted. Some went to prison. Others fled the country. A few made deals and testified against the others. It was the biggest corruption scandal in Hollywood history, and it started with one actress recording one conversation. Marilyn testified multiple times. Grand juries, congressional hearings, trials. She spent more time in courtrooms than on film sets. Her acting career never recovered. Studios were afraid to hire her, not because she was difficult, but because she represented change, and change was scary. But she didn't care anymore about being a movie star. She'd found something more important. A purpose, a mission. She became an advocate. For actors' rights, for workplace protections, for transparency in business practices. She gave speeches at colleges, testified before Congress, wrote articles, appeared on news programs. And everywhere she went, she carried a recording device. Evidence, she'd say with a smile. Just in case. Years later, a film student interviewed her for a documentary about Hollywood's transformation. Miss Monroe, do you regret recording that conversation with Zanuck? Given everything that followed, Marilyn thought carefully. You know, that recording changed my life. It ended my film career, made me a target, put me through years of legal battles and threats. So yes, in some ways I regret it. But it also freed me. It freed thousands of actors. It exposed a corrupt system and forced it to change. And it taught me something important. What's that? That the truth is more powerful than any studio, any contract, any threat. The truth is the most powerful thing we have. And sometimes all it takes is one person with the courage to capture it and share it. Would you do it again? Marilyn smiled. In a heartbeat, the interview ended. The camera stopped. But Marilyn's work continued. She never became Marilyn Monroe, the movie star again, but she became something better. Marilyn Monroe, the truth teller, the whistleblower, the woman who changed an industry. And it all started with a hidden recording device and the courage to press record. The recording that surfaced wasn't just evidence. It was a catalyst, a spark that ignited a movement. And decades later, when actors signed fair contracts and worked in safe conditions and had protections against exploitation, they had Marilyn to thank. Not Marilyn the sex symbol, not Marilyn the troubled starlet, but Marilyn the brave, Marilyn the principled, Marilyn who refused to stay silent. And that recording? It's preserved now in the National Archives. A piece of history, a reminder of what one person can do when they refuse to be silenced. When the studio head told Marilyn she was nothing without them, she proved him wrong. And the recording that surfaced showed the world exactly how wrong he was. Today, that recording is studied in film schools and journalism programs. It's used to teach the power of evidence, the importance of speaking truth to power, and the courage it takes to stand against corruption. Students listen to Zanuck's threats and Marilyn's quiet strength in that moment. They hear a woman who knew she was being destroyed but had the presence of mind to document it. They learn that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't violence or money. It's truth captured and preserved. And whenever someone asks if one person can really make a difference, they point to Marilyn Monroe, to that hidden recording device in her purse, to the moment she pressed record and changed everything. Because that's what courage looks like. Not fearlessness, but action despite fear. That's what Marilyn Monroe gave the world. Not just movies. Not just beauty. But proof that the truth, when spoken or recorded, can topple empires. And it all started with one woman, one meeting, and one decision to press record.